Guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Veronica. Thank you so much for watching this video. Without further ado, let's get started with another Military Monday. Okay guys, so for today's topic, we're going to talk about assignments. Assignments are probably the most exciting topic of the year. When you're up for an assignment, it's like Christmas is coming and you don't know what package you're going to get, literally. So let's just jump into this really quick. We're going to speak on military officer assignments. As you guys know, I'm in the Air Force, I'm an officer, I am not enlisted, so I am not going to speak on enlisted assignments. I don't know much detail into how those work, so there's plenty of other military YouTubers if you are enlisted that you can inquire from, but for me, it's officers. Okay, so for officers, for the Air Force, we tend to rotate anywhere from 2 to 4 years. When you first become an officer and you are in your career field, they like to hold you at your assignment for anywhere up to 3 to 4, so you're on that longer end. The reason they're doing that is because they're when I was listening to one of their webinars that they had, it's just they're trying to give more time for people who are new, give them more time at their first assignment. So before it used to be like an automatic 2 years. Now your first assignment is like an automatic 3 to 4. 4 would be really pushing it. Usually it's like that timeline right before you hit 4. So for example, for me, I left Malmstrom right before I hit 4. It was like 3. I had like a couple of months before I hit 4 years there. So officers, unlike the enlisted side of the house, unless you're in special duties, but I'm just talking in general, you will move every 2 to 4 years. You will get an assignment that could be in the same state. You can get what's considered a PCA, where you go to maybe you do another duty on that same base, and they start your time over. And it varies so much. Literally, it's a case-by-case basis. The only example that I can really give to you, for most of you who are either first-time officers or looking into how when you get to move, would be Florida. So Florida has like 3 bases. You could be at Eglin one day, and then you're up for an assignment, and they're like, we're PCSing you to MacDill. Now, usually they don't do that because they like to spread your horizons, get you out of the same places. But for certain special circumstances, let's say you have a senior graduating and you don't want to move, you can apply for it. There's like a special program you can apply for, and they'll just either keep you at that base, or maybe they'll PCS you to MacDill or something, and it's down the road. Still in the same state, and figuratively, you should still be able to work out your children. But that's like a very hypothetical loose situation. How it works is, when you are upcoming on your, I would say, 2nd year as an officer, you need to start thinking about where you want to go. For me, I was thinking about it probably after my 1st year, which was anywhere but the cold. Honestly, I just kept saying anywhere but the cold. So what happens is you'll basically talk to your senior administrator at your base. You'll also talk to your commander kind of about where you want to go. But really, ultimately, it's up to you kind of to put in that work on where you want to go. So essentially, what's going to happen is, I'll give you my example. So at my 2nd year mark, I started to figure out, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to apply for AFOQT. I tried to kind of rush an application, apply for it, and I decided, no, I'm going to bypass the 2nd year and wait for my 3rd year, which is what I did. And so I got selected, found out at the end of 19, and then, because this is 20, right? Yeah, got my orders late into 20, like March. I left in June, and then thus I'm here. So you always want to be thinking a year ahead, because that's how it's going to work. So for example, if I'm on the vulnerable movers list, which is called the VML, which means you're eligible for an assignment, it's time for you to move, you will get a notification a year out, because they're planning for you to move that summer of the upcoming year. So for example, if I were on the VML right now, I would have done my assignment picking by August, and then they usually give commanders up until November, December, They say they start letting you know matches as early as December, but I don't find that to be true. Maybe it's getting better, but you'll find out your assignment usually in the first part of the year, by the first part of the year, maybe even later, like me, and then you'll move this upcoming summer in 21. How to apply for assignments, you used to fill out this, what's called your ADP. I can't remember the acronym name, but basically it was like this old generation list. It's really outdated, and they got rid of it, and I'm so glad they did. And now they have what's called MyVector. MyVector, if I could relate it to anything, it's almost like Match.com, but I've never been on Match.com, but it's like Match.com, but you can't see who you've matched with. It's like a secret thing. So how it works is you have your profile, you fill out everything about yourself, like down to the nitty-gritty, including your spouse, what your spouse does, what your spouse likes. And then what you do is you fill out a statement. There's like a statement for your commander or your most senior ranking rater to fill out and say as a push statement to the other commanders to let them know, like, this is a great choice. You need to pick this person for an assignment. What happens is if you leave that statement blank, all the person knows on the other end is what you put about yourself. So you can't put your strats or your maybe awards one. Maybe you have something like super award winning, like let's say I won a Technology of the Year Officer Award and I want to go do this technology officer stint in the Pentagon, and there's no statement about that. They don't get your record. So that's why it's important to always have your push statement filled out, so that way the receiving person knows who they're getting or who they want to bid for. I personally wrote my own statement because I'm like, this is what I wanted to say. I sent it to my commander. He blessed it. He put it in the system, saved it, and it was there. So it's very important that you have that done before your matches start. So once you go through that, what you'll do is they have a period where you, as the officer, can edit and match where you want to go and where you don't want to go. I went through every single base and I rated them, I think, 1 star to 5 stars. 1 star being I don't want to go here, and 5 stars I really want to go here. And I went through all the locations. And so, for example, Malmstrom, 1 star. They're not going to send me back there, but I'm just giving an example. 1 star, don't want to go here. Now, the assignment team in Texas, they look at these things. Sometimes it doesn't matter if you put a place as 1 star. They might still send you there, but it helps them know, okay, this person really likes this place and maybe this other person really doesn't. So let's go ahead and send, Captain Joe instead of Captain Collins. So you also go through and you match what jobs you want to do. So go back and watch my MSC videos because I'm not going to go through it all, but there's basically 6 major rotations that we do. And it's nice to have a breadth of general knowledge in all of them. So at my next assignment, I'm not going to choose the same jobs that I just did. I'm going to choose something different. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. So I have to match the location and the assignment and what I want to do. When you look at it, they give you a nice little map. And I'm not going to put screenshots or anything because I'm sure there's some Privacy Act stuff on there. Just not going to do it. But basically it shows you the world and it shows you all the bases. The base that you're applying to needs to have an opening for your rank, your job that you want, and it needs to be a location that you desire probably. That's kind of low in the totem pole. But for example, I can't put, Florida is like one of the hottest states to go to. Not hot as in temperature, hot as in everyone wants to go to Florida. I mean, who wouldn't? Disney World is there, at least for me. That's my priority. So a lot of people will put all of the Florida bases, like 555, Florida. So let's say there's a base called Eglin there. Let's say they don't have any openings. They're not even on the list. But let's say I put Eglin as my number 1. If you do that, you're wasting your bids. So basically you have a list of like your top, I think they said fill out your top 10. Don't do anything less than 10 because that gives them 10 different matches to play with. Let's say I put Eglin, I put MacDill, I put Hawaii, I put, what's another one that people like to go to? Places in Texas. and none of those bases are open. And I just put it on there. Basically, I wasted 5 different bids, and they're going to be like, this girl doesn't care about her assignment because she didn't pay attention. So every cycle, certain bases will be open and other bases won't be, because they have to have a person leave that billet or be upcoming to leave for you to go in there. You can't just, back in the day, they used to have people, like 10 people there when there's only 5 billets. They don't do that anymore because it's the needs of the Air Force, and what they were finding is too many people at one location really hinders other locations who really need the help. Like, for example, Malmstrom, we had a hard time filling billets because people didn't want to come, or they got out of their assignment, they separated, whatever. But here in Texas, there's like 8 MSC officers and only 4 billets. So clearly they're overstaffed. So that's how it works. So not only do you have to say, yes, I want to go to Texas, but I got to find a job that's open in Texas. Me personally, I would love to be stationed in Texas. Lewis and I want to build a home there or buy a home there. So we know when we go to Texas, that's what we're going to be doing. However, I'm not going to put Texas on my VML list if there's nothing open in Texas. You know what I'm saying? You just don't do that. So that's what you do, and you get like a 2-week, maybe even 3 weeks, I can't remember, period to do all this matching, starring, basically saying like, ooh, I want this. So while you're starring and saying, these are the bases that I want to go to, in the job, when you click on the base in the job, it has a description of the job. It has who the commander is, not for you to call. You're not supposed to be doing any more calling any favors anymore, but they put that on there. So for instance, if my commander wanted to talk to the commander I'm going to, or vice versa, or whatever, it allows them to do that, not you as the officer doing it. Please don't make calls, because I remember listening on the assignments webinars, they said people were making their own phone calls. You never make a call on your behalf, especially as a lower ranking officer. You leave that to your raider or senior commander to do that, not you. The base that I starred, I think I selected, I know I made 10 different matches. 2 of them were in the same place, but I picked like Travis, which is in California in the Bay Area. Texas was on my list. Florida was on my list. And I pretty much got bids for every single base that I applied for. So what happens, how that works is you match it on the website, and you fill out all this stuff. You match it. You say, yeah, I want this job, or I love this job. You're not saying, oh, you should hire me for the job on any of them. It's just kind of like a selecting list. And so after they close you to edit, so they'll allow the officers to edit, then they say, okay, it's closing time for you guys. They close it, and all the bids are sent to the commanders of those jobs. So the commanders who are hiring for their openings that we have bidded on, like for example, my job was up for grabs because I was leaving that job. So everyone who bidded on Malmstrom for my direct slot, whatever job they put down, the commander at my previous base got to see it, vice versa. So every single time I selected a base that I want to go to with an assignment, the commander, the gaining commander potentially got to see it. And they get to read your profile and blah, blah, blah. So they'll sort through, they can have anywhere from like 1 applicant to like 100 applicants, and they sort through and go through, okay, these are my top 5. And the reason why they have to pick top people is because people like me who applied for AFOQT, they may not know that I applied for AFOQT, which in fact, I don't think any of them did. So because I applied for AFOQT or special assignments outweigh general assignments. So because I got AFOQT, I was not eligible anymore for my assignments, but I didn't know I got AFOQT at the time. So I'm applying for these like I don't know that I got to go to school. And then when the commander is like, yeah, you're on my list, you're in my top whatever, they star you back and you get what's called a bid match or whatever. And so every single base, I think except for 2, I got bids on. So that was really nice, because at first it's kind of like kickball when you don't get selected or you get picked last and you're like, oh my gosh, but you get picked. But the bad thing is you don't know where you are picked. So I could have been number 1 or I could have been number 45. You just don't know. And the reason they said that they don't release that information because they don't want people feeling bad. But in my opinion, I do think that's something they need to work on, because if I'm not in your top 3, I can change my bid and move it to someone else. You know what I mean? Instead of they lock us down and don't allow us to move. But it's like if me and the commander in Texas, he's saying I'm number 8 and I'm like, you're my number 1 and you're telling me I'm number 8 on your list, I want to be able to move my bid and match with someone else who wants me more, because the chances of me getting an assignment from 7 other different people not, going through with it are kind of slim. It's hard. But that's essentially how assignments work. So after you do that, you find out who your assignment team, who you got matched to. Generally, it's always someone you put on the list. If it's not, that means you did something wrong, like putting bases that weren't open, or you just didn't care and you got the needs of the Air Force. There's always a chance that you're going to get needs of the Air Force, which is whatever's open is what I'm sending you to. But now, especially now, they are working on, they want you to go somewhere where you want to be. They don't want to send people places where they don't want to be. Of course, that still happens, but they're trying to get most people matched to something on their list. The only other comment that I wanted to make is overseas. I really want to go overseas really bad, but here's the thing with overseas. You have to, for me, has to be timed right, because I really want to start building my house, but I also want to have our kids and Lewis and I experience overseas, because I personally have never lived overseas. I know people are like, oh my gosh, where have you gone overseas? And I have never been overseas. So I'm really sad about that. But when you mark overseas, you can get anything overseas that they have open. And I wasn't willing to take that risk yet. When I say anything, it means both short term and long term. So let's say you want to go to Germany, but they're like, we're going to send you to Korea for a year first. If you get assignments like Korea or Turkey, you have to go over there. You have to go over there unaccompanied, meaning you can't take your spouse or your kids. Yes, there's ways around it, but they do not support your spouse or your kids. You have to go over there for a year by yourself, and then they'll PCS you to Germany, Italy, the UK bases over there. So I see that a lot. They're like, hey, we'll give you Germany, but you got to go to Korea first by yourself. And I'm just not willing to do that just yet. If I put an overseas base, I kind of wish I got it when I first came in, because, I was single, living my best life. Lewis and I are used to long distance, so it would have been easier. Now that I have kids, I'm like, I need to have my kids around me. I need to be involved. And missing out on a year of their lives is just not something I'm willing to do at this moment. So I marked overseas off. And because I marked it off, I can't apply for any of the other bases that were overseas. Just know, if you're going overseas, you potentially could get anything that they have open overseas, because generally most people don't sign up to do a 1-year stint at Korea or Turkey. Some people do, some people don't. Most people don't, I would say. But yeah, so that's all about assignments. Again, I forgot to mention this in my previous video. If you turn down an assignment, let's say you get Alaska and you're like, I do not want to go to Alaska. They give you 7 days to respond. If you don't respond, then you're pretty much automatically starting to separate. And if you respond and say, I'm not accepting that assignment, you have to separate, period. Right away when I got my AFOQT assignment, I accepted it the same hour, and I was like, I'm going. I'm so excited. But if you don't do that, you're obviously okay with getting out. So I forgot to mention that, but I'm re-mentioning it. That's all I have for today's Military Monday video. Again, keep leaving topics and comments down below. I feel like I'm getting kind of back in the groove of things, slowly but surely, and I can't wait for December, because we have a lot planned for you guys. So stay tuned, and thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye!